A melody is a melody. You can do anything underneath it. Respecting the tonality whilst taking you on a journey that is super wild and beautiful. The Rev 2 has the heart of an analog synth, but the brains of something a little more modern. Just transcribing my favorite sounds from great records from the 70s, 80s. Yeah, analog gear is dope. What's the most important thing? Person behind the board.
Amazing.
Really fun.
What's up, everybody? I'm so excited today because I've got my friend Julian Pollack, also known as J3PO.
Hey.
Actually, you can find music under both of those names on Spotify, but J3PO, I think that's kind of your big one these days, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Julian's playing, huge fan of his synth work. You make incredible synth sounds, which I know you also sell on your website.
Thanks, man.
Which is awesome. And yeah, in addition to that, Julian is a current member of Terrence Blanchard's touring band, plays with the great Chris Bodie as well, Marcus Miller, and has played along with Herbie Hancock and so many other greats. It's kind of crazy. If you go to his website and just check out his resume, it's just ridiculous. So such an honor to have you here, man. And also, I'll just throw out there too, another thing I noticed was that you were on Piano Jazz with Marion McPartland.
Bro.
So cool, honestly. For me, that's like, that's amazing. Because I'm like, not gonna lie, that's kind of a huge inspiration for this podcast, literally.
Hell yeah, absolutely. She was the original.
The original, and probably still just the best by far. But yeah, just incredible, like to go into those episodes and hear the stuff she did.
Oh man, absolutely, yeah.
Do you have any favorites other than your own?
Probably my own.
Yeah.
No, mine was the worst of all time. Probably, I was way too young to be on that. I mean, I'm flattered that I was, but I mean, I just.
How old were you?
I was like 18. I had literally, it was like my first. It was like the fall of moving to New York to go to music school. And of course, that was just like, I was like, what's going to happen? And I didn't know anything at the time. Cool. But,
was there anything like from being on her show that you particularly remember or anything from that experience that you learned?
She was just like so wonderful and caring. And she made me sound good when we played together. She was so solid, man. Such a great pianist and musician and also just hilarious. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Ah, man, if only. I wish I could have had the chance to meet her. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, she was great.
Also, quick shout out to Casio. Big thanks to them for sponsoring Education Online, free for you all. And shout out to them for this beautiful new yellow mustard Privia PX S7000 that I'm absolutely in love with. So this is awesome. Thank you to Casio. More on that later. We already got on a tangent, which is awesome. I love that. But Julian, you also have an album coming out really soon. Actually, by the time we release this podcast, it will already be out. April 4th, correct?
That's right.
Soul and Circuitry.
That's right.
I'm really looking forward to that. So
thanks, man.
Can you tell us a little bit about it? What's the process about this album? And did you do anything differently for this one than any of your past albums?
Nice. Yeah, thank you. I did. And the concept behind this one is like trying to unite younger years as like only an acoustic pianist, and then with the past kind of 7-8 years of like diving into electronic music and trying to really fuse those two worlds together in a soulful way. So the process behind it was during the pandemic, for like 2 weeks during the holidays, I just sat down and wrote a tune like with pencil, paper, or Sibelius every day, and had to have the song done by noon and then just forget about it. Because I was trying to just like get back into the idea that like writing is like the same thing as practicing piano. You can't, it's not like when inspiration hits. It's like you just have to, if you just do it every day and you don't try to get like too married to whatever you're doing, you work on your materials, try to have, one idea kind of spawn the rest of your composition, blah, blah, blah. And then that summer, I just went through them again and chose like the 8-9 best ones I thought. Demoed them out for myself a little bit, like just with Ableton. And then went to the studio for a day with Anwar Marshall, great drummer, and Papa Bear Johnson, great bass player. And we recorded just like basically live piano trio stuff. And we also did a fair amount of just like improvising. I had some synths set up. And then I went back and then wanted to treat it like I had treated my other albums, which was more just like the electronic style, production vibes. Yeah, and so that resulted in the album, and took a long time to get it done and mixed and everything. So it's coming out kind of a few years after it all started, but
man, I mean, congrats.
Thanks,
must feel so, so good. And also we'll definitely dive into some of your synth work and,
Cool.
how you I'll ask you a bunch of nerdy questions about it.
Nerdy questions are good.
Yeah, that's what we do, man. That's what we do here. But before we do any of that stuff, I would love if you'd be down to just play something for us.
Sure, man. Absolutely.
Are we going into headphones for this one?
Yeah,
Right.
It's funny, man. Just like yesterday or the day before I started messing around with Naima, John Coltrane.
Beautiful song.
I'll just play that down with like some Rhodes and some synth. Just
sounds amazing.
Such great changes.
Yeah, let's hear it. Man, so pretty. So tasteful, dude. So, of course, that brings up so many questions that pop into my mind as I'm hearing it. But yeah, one thing that's really unique about this episode, we've actually never done like a synth before on this podcast. So I'm really excited because you are such a master of synthesis. It's very evident from, the way you perform and just your ability to even just switch between the synth and the piano. And then of course your recordings. But so just a first question, just kind of a fun one. What are some of your favorite synthesizers? And also follow up, how do you kind of think about hardware synths versus soft synths and their use?
Sure, yeah. Well, actually this right here is my favorite hardware synth, probably of all time. Just this synth right here, the Rev 2, has the heart of an analog synth, but the brains of something a little more modern. And I feel like with this synth, I can create kind of any sound, any analog-ish sound I want. And it's multi-layered, so you can split the keyboard. And it sounds modern, but as I said, it has that analog heart. I have 30 or 40 synths at home, and I have all the like original OBXA, which is an incredible Oberheim synth. That's probably my favorite of the like vintage. That's the synth that like got me into synths after like only playing piano and Rhodes. And then as far as like in the box stuff, I only use one. That's Omnisphere. I mean, I have other ones, but I always come. I also work with Spectrasonic, so there's that. But even if I didn't, I probably would just still continue to use Omnisphere, just because it's the same thing. It's like all the sound that you can create with it has an analog heart and a kind of a soulful kind of just a great sound. But then the modulation, Omnisphere, you can do anything. You can take DSP waveforms from like a Prophet 5. You could do one from an Oberheim. You could do one from a Minimoog, and then there's all these different filters in there. So many LFOs, and the envelopes are there's the envelopes and the whole mod matrix is, once you understand the ecosystem in there.
Yeah, you can basically do anything you would need to do, essentially.
Yeah, and I find that actually there's a lot of like companies out there that will do like graphic user interfaces that will, pretend to be, like a Minimoog. How many of them are out there? I find that a lot of people who, musicians who don't know too much about synthesis will end up getting a lot of those different synthesizers. The problem is when you go from one graphic user interface to another, you have to relearn where everything is. So to me, if you just get rid of that and just have one graphic user interface and you're just dealing with sound, that's the best, because, unless it's the real thing. Like if you have an actual Juno in front of you, it's gonna inspire and influence the way you're gonna create the sounds. The limitations are part of the feature of the instrument. But I think when it's in the box, just focusing on the sound is the most important thing.
For sure.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
It's a very important lesson. But yeah, okay, so cool. We just took our headphones off. So continuity, it's very important.
Hey man, there's no green screen for that.
That's the next step. Then we can get all your synths in the background. It's perfect.
That's right.
All 30, how many did you say?
Yeah, they're 30 or something like that.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it's funny, these days I'm like, I just need this. And like, a Rhodes or Nord or something like that, or Vintage Vibe, some pedals, I'm good.
Yeah, so what are some of your favorite pedals?
My favorite pedal is the Red Panda Tensor, without a doubt. That is it's a looper, a pitch shifter, a tape stop, it's like its own little instrument. I wish I had it here too.
Yeah, I wish I thought of that.
Yeah, it's all good. Another time.
Definitely, we'll have more opportunities.
That is a great pedal, and I think that my favorite pedals most of the time are either a pedal that does something incredible for your sound. So for example, like the reverb pedal I have on my board, which is the Meris Mercury 7. It's just great reverb. It's just such great reverb. There's just two settings, plate and hall. Obviously there's a lot of stuff under the hood you can affect that stuff, but it's basically like a normal-ish reverb and then a big hall reverb, which for me, I feel like, a big hall reverb with the right sound, it's such, the Blade Runner stuff, it's iconic, and I love big reverbs. It really affects how you play, though. Obviously, you're not going to play something super chromatic or busy lines, but with the right sort of polysynth or melodic stuff that's modal, it's like the vibe it can give is incredible.
Yeah, so in your ideal effects chain, for like, if you had to just kind of choose, I'm always going to have one of each of these types of effects or something like that I bring with me on the road, what would that look like?
Yeah, so my current pedal board is kind of like that. It's just 4 pedals. Although I'm kind of like at a point now where I'm thinking about changing some things out. But yeah, just like good delay and reverb, some creative stuff. To me, I always have my pedal board at seat level or standing level, because if I have a pedal, I want to be able to. The fun is manipulating it, on the fly. Because otherwise, it's like, well, maybe I can just use the delay, or I actually love the chorus on the Rev too, and I use that on a lot of patches. It just sounds great. And the latest Nord Stage 4 also has great effects. So it's like, if I'm not going to be interacting with the pedal, I have less interest in it. As I said, if it's a great sound like reverb that you can't get on your board, that's one thing. But I'm really always looking for interaction. I want that pedal board needs to be the third instrument on the keyboard rig.
That makes total sense. Yeah, it's not just about foot switching. It's about literally being able to manipulate the sound as you're doing it, which is obviously very creative. That makes sense.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And that tensor, it just really allows you to, have one hand on a keyboard and then another down there, kind of manipulating stuff, creating loops, and it's basically like a tape machine. And so, for example, like when you click down on the record button, as soon as you stop pressing record, it starts looping. So you can do really fast, glitchy stuff where, if you hold it for just like, I don't know, 200 milliseconds, get a glitch. Or I think it has 7 or 8 seconds, so you can do loops. And then you can overdub, and then you can change the pitch. So it's like, there's people who've done whole albums of like tensor loops. I might make one at some point. I don't know how popular it would be, but
Hey man, it's worth a shot. Okay, cool. So one thing I'm actually wondering, so I know you have a lot of presets that are super popular. Really funny, we came into the room, for anybody who's watching, we came into the room and we found that, so I had purchased this Prophet from somebody else, and that person had actually created some presets based on your sounds, which is really funny.
Right. He had named it like probably from like a YouTube tutorial or something like that.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
What is interesting though is like when I'm traveling, we backline this stuff, and oftentimes the pack is already on there. And but also like our buddy Nick Semrad, he also I'll like flip through. I'm like, they got Nick stuff, and so
all the good stuff.
Yeah, but it's a small world, It's every town, like how many people have a Prophet Rev too, So
for sure. Yeah, it's definitely.
Although it is a popular synth though, for sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're improvisational piano producer people playing Prophet Rev 2s,
Right. Right.
So shout out to everyone watching who is either one of those or is about to become one because of this video. Speaking of
what's great? There's a lot of money in it. In music.
Oh, in music. I was like, are you talking about
creative
synths?
music?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it as a career if you're looking to own a mansion. For sure. Okay, man. So you already got me laughing. This is awesome. I love that we've got you here. I love that we've got this synth here.
Hey.
So I was wondering, man, let's use it a little bit. Given that you have all these amazing presets, I would love to learn a bit more about your actual process of, let's say, sitting down, initializing a patch. Do you usually start by messing with the sound until that leads you somewhere? Or does it also, depend on the process? Maybe sometimes you already have a song in mind and then you visualize a sound. Does it kind of depend on what you're doing creatively?
Yeah, honestly, creating sounds, there's relatively few ways in which it happens. I would say, like when I was first starting out, it's very much like learning, bebop, in the sense that in order to get good at playing bebop, sure, you need to understand the theoretical side of it, but more importantly, you need to transcribe. So for me, it was all about just transcribing my favorite sounds from my, great records from the 70s, 80s, and beyond, starting with simple sounds. Learning how to make something like synth strings using pulse width modulation. It gets kind of nerdy, but it's fun. So yeah, when I started out, it was a lot of that. And then once I started getting some sounds under my belt that I was, using a lot more in like production and live performance, like when I'm sitting down to make, like a preset pack, or like if I'm working with one of these companies where the assignment is like, hey, we need you to submit 50 sounds. They might give you some guidelines like we need 10, everybody should submit 10 bass, 10 leads, 10 poly, 10 synth strings, 10 effects, something brass, whatever kind of categories. So that might inspire kind of like what I'm going to go after. I would say like when I get like a new synth, I may start really exploring just like, hey, what can this thing do? When I'm actually making a record or working on music in the studio, I'm probably not going to be creating too many sounds in the moment, because it's too much of a stop on the forward momentum. But to battle that, I make sure that I save every sound that I've created, and I have an understanding like on this one right here, like what sounds are good in what contexts. So, and maybe I'll find that sound. If it doesn't fit into the thing we're working on, then I'll manipulate it from there to kind of fit. But even today, man, I still transcribe sounds. As a matter of fact, I'll just be in the car and be like, man, I gotta be able to have this sound on my board or something like it. I haven't been doing it enough lately. Actually, it's reminding that like That's such a, it's the same thing as like improvising. You know, you amass, you know, a big library of ideas in your mind, like for lines, and then, you know, you kind of pull from those and they can inspire you to go other places. So transcription, if we can call it that, sound transcription is probably the main thing that gets me going with creating sounds.
That seems like just an amazing thing to do when learning sound design, production, obviously synthesis. That seems like an amazing way to, drums too, you know, drum programming.
Exactly. I did the same thing with like drum production, like bring in like, you know, a great hip hop track from like the 90s or something like that. Bring it into your DAW, make sure it's synced with tempo, but then like, instead of just putting the elements where, you know, like, oh, that's on 2 and 4, like zooming in and seeing like, oh, wow, that hi-hat is like here, and like all those little timing things, like 100%. Just trying to assimilate the feel rather than getting into the, you know, oh, that's a 256th note behind or some stupid thing like that. It's like, no, it's just a little bit behind, or, you know, this is pushing, or.
Yeah, and you start to like really visualize how those elements work together to kind of push and pull the groove.
How much slop is in there, and just like, but more importantly, how it feels, you know, the kind of just assimilating it into the blood.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, I do not love the gesture I just did for some reason. Push and pull.
Push, pull.
Really quick before we keep going, I do just want to take a quick minute to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Casio. Casio has been such a huge friend and supporter in making these episodes possible for all of you to receive these hour-plus long, wonderful long-form conversations about music from some of the best pianists and musicians and educators in the entire world. Casio is a huge supporter of free online music education in general, and I'm so grateful to them for their support. Now, right in front of me is the gorgeous Casio Privia PXS 7000 in the mustard yellow color, which I absolutely love. I've been wanting to get my hands on one of these for a couple years now. There are a whole bunch of elements that make this a really enjoyable instrument to play. Some of the smaller things are things like this beautiful ivory texture on the keys, which makes your fingers stick more to them like a real piano. Even these small little touches like actual spruce wood on the sides of the keys. But even more importantly, the key bed is really lovely and the sounds are great too. And of course, for me, the look of an instrument is really, really important, whether it's because you want your home to look really nice and not have that eyesore of an X stand, or whether you're like me and you actually are putting instruments in video content or in a studio. The stand that comes along with it, along with the attached pedals, is just a really, really beautiful look overall. Super sleek, something that I'm really happy to have with me at home or on video in my studio. And by the way, it's really easy to unscrew the keyboard from the stand and just bring it along with you to gigs. So all in all, I'm a huge fan of this keyboard. It's one of my favorites that I've honestly ever owned. And if you're interested in it, please click the link in the description to check it out. That link also gives me a small commission on any purchases you make, but regardless, I think this is a wonderful instrument worth checking out that's just absolutely beautiful, minimalist, and sleekly designed to have a wonderful playing experience. All right, let's get back to it.
10 years ago when we were coming up, man, it was like, we were still in that weird, like, oh, this guy's got analog gear to mix. You can only make true records on it with analog gear. You know, that vibe.
Yeah.
I feel like that has been pretty much debunked now.
Yes.
In the sense that, like, sure, yeah, analog gear is dope and can sound really great, but what's the most important thing? The person behind the board.
Yeah, dude.
So much marketing has gone into trying to get us to buy stuff.
Buy too much
instead of just investing in our minds.
That's the interesting thing too about what you were saying about Omnisphere, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so I do the same thing when I'm teaching students. I'm like, you know, some students will come in and they'll be like, my goal is to learn like 30 tunes. And I'm like, well, here's my question. What does that actually get for you? Just know a bunch of songs, but play them all at a very low level? Or do you want to know one tune that you can just master and do all of these techniques on, you know? And it's like, it's the same thing. If you spend all your time memorizing tunes as opposed to actually just getting really good at understanding the inner workings of one tune, you can apply that to all 30 songs. You know what I mean?
I do think it's really, really great for people who are, you know, either new to this or are coming up to hear that less is more vibe, because the marketing and like all the, you know, gear stuff out there and just the general vibe of the world is like more. Instead of just like,
yeah, that's what's so interesting about what you were saying about Omnisphere.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of saying there's really just one synth that I actually need when it comes to soft synths, Omnisphere. Like I don't need every emulation. I don't need every soft synth out there that does some kind of other thing. You're saying basically Omnisphere can do everything. And at this point, you maybe wouldn't even really invest that much in a whole lot of other synth plugins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, because basically when I'm working at home, if I'm in the computer, I'm using Omnisphere, and then I do have, like the hardware thing is a separate way of approaching music. Like I love having Omnisphere, and then I love having like the Rev 2, and then, as I said, like Nord or some sort of other electric piano thing, and the pedals, because the physical nature, you could set it up like in Omnisphere, and I have with Keyscape, like with some MIDI controllers to get it to feel more like hardware, especially if you're doing a lot of interacting. But I think having both is great. Just maybe like how a mix engineer might have a few like an outboard compressor or EQ to do some things, but not like an entire wall of stuff.
Right. So if you master like a couple things, like if you mastered just the Rev 2 and Omnisphere and could replicate like practically any patch on those two.
Which you can.
Yeah. You're like pretty much good to go.
Yeah. And the one advantage I would say of like having certain hardware synths or certain like graphic user interfaces with hardware, with the soft synths, is they might have a way, it may sometimes help to visualize what's happening. I'm not gonna lie, like I learned most of the things I know about synthesis when I actually got an analog synth, the Prophet 6, I don't know, in 2016 or something like that, 15. Because by having it in front of me and having the limitations and the one-to-one knob feature, meaning like if you twist something, something's gonna happen. There's no menu diving, or if there is, it's very little. Rather than doing it with a mouse and you're there with your fingers and you're with this physical instrument, I don't know, it allowed me to self-teach much more than, like I had a bunch of virtual synths on the computer up until that point, tons. But for some reason, it was so much harder to learn from those. But then once I learned on the Prophet 6, then when I went back to the digital stuff, it was just like, oh yeah, of course now I understand how this works. So okay, on this synth, the filter's here. On this one has this type of ADSR, and this type, 12 dB filter versus 24 dB filter. It's going to give me this sound. Okay, this only had, this has like a sine wave in addition to it. All these kind of things you start seeing once you have, a firm understanding of, basic analog synthesis.
Yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense. But even just having like the one analog and the one soft synth, that's really versatile.
Yeah.
And speaking of self-teaching, how would you feel about doing the opposite for us and maybe like initializing a patch in the Prophet? We can do something, something cool.
Okay.
Earlier today, you asked me what kind of patch I would be interested in learning to make. So I was going to say, how about something that's like kind of lends itself really well to maybe a rhythmic or funky situation that has some kind of interesting expression or modulation with some kind of vibrato that you can control. Something like that could be cool. Good for short stabs, probably polysynth, I would say.
Yeah. Thinking like something like, something with some stacked sawtooths, These are kind of basic to create, and they're fun. Okay. So you were saying like you want something funky. What was the figure you played?
I think I did something like, let's see. Something like that.
Something like that. So,
but it could also be like, something like something like on that third note, you have kind of like a vibrato or something like that.
Sure. So the first thing I'd probably deal with is like within the amplifier envelope section is like, how long is this gonna take to decay? So I'm gonna bring that way down. So already we're kind of in that kind of more percussive landscape. And then I brought the filter down. I'm gonna bring in just a little bit of key tracking, which is gonna make it so when I play lower notes, the filter is gonna open up as I go up. Without it, you'll hear it doesn't get brighter as I go.
Interesting.
It just stays the same. But that kind of mimics like, like a flute, like an acoustic instrument. The brightness is gonna vary, brightness and darkness is going to vary depending on where they're playing on the instrument. So as a person who's designing sounds, it's good to, we have that tool in our pocket. The second thing I'm going to do is bring in another oscillator. So just, that doesn't sound very good, but if we detune it a little bit, it gives it a bunch of life. It's like it's almost like a chorus effect. You'd have two voices slightly out of tune. It's like a real human choir. In a real human choir, nobody's going to sing the same note exactly in tune. If they did, it would sound very nasally, kind of like. But if it's out of tune just a little bit, it sounds really beautiful. So that's a pretty cool sound. If you want to add some vibrato, the way we would do that is we would use a low frequency oscillator, and I could just go into my modulation, and I could send the LFO 1. There's 4 of them on here, but we just need 1. We'll use LFO 1, and then the destination is going to be all oscillator frequencies. And let's listen to what that sounds like. So obviously it doesn't sound very good right now, not very usable. So what we need to do is we need to map the mod wheel to the depth of that LFO. So what we'll do is instead of having this be on a consistent amount, we'll go to another modulation slot. We're just going to choose the mod wheel. Where is it? Hello, there it is. And the destination is going to be modulation 1 amount. So now the mod wheel should do that. On this particular instrument, there's actually a couple of different ways to do that. That was actually the more long form way. There's an easier way to do that. But that seems to be a pretty aggressively fast vibrato. Sounds good. I'm actually going to bring down the amount. So we're already getting into that kind of like 80s kind of Prince. Also, by the way, on the sequential instruments, the default pitch bend range is normally a 5th. And I actually rather like that because if you're playing like something like in a mode, rather than having this be a whole step, so instead of you get those extensions. So that can be really cool for comping. So a little different than just the kind of normal whole step. So then, of course, to finish a sound, we want some effects. So we'll put on some like reverb or something like that. We can even do delay. I like that very short, fast reverb. So yeah, I mean, from here you could do a lot of different things with it. We could turn it into more of like a brass patch. Right now this is like just a very standard type of, sawtooth funk patch. Could also bring up that second oscillator by an octave. Another thing is I like to sometimes, instead of doing the modulation with the wheel, is with aftertouch, because then you don't have to bring your hand over here. So let's set that up. We can go over to modulation.
And so aftertouch it's just like pressure, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it allows you to trigger vibrato without actually having to use the mod wheel, which can be very effective. So we'll go over here, we'll go to pressure, and we're gonna have that also affect the modulation routing 1. Yeah, so now. another trick on here is if you like, I was playing this kind of like, what's that called again? It's, parallel motion. Parallel motion.
Yeah, I call it intervallic, but a lot of people call it parallel.
What do you call it?
Intervallic.
Intervallic,
Because
exactly.
you're just like always keeping the intervals
Exactly, keeping the interval the same. Well, you can press those intervals, and then I just hit unison, and now.
Amazing.
Really fun.
That's sick, man. So couple follow-up questions. First of all, I just want to shout out that you do have a YouTube channel where you do tutorials of this sort, right?
Yes, and planning on building it more, as well as releasing my own. I already put out one sound design course, but we decided to take that off the shelf for a while because I'm doing some rebranding. And so I'm going to be putting that out as well as a reharm course. And I'm going to be asking Noah Kellman for advice on how to do all that.
Which I will gladly share. And also, just shout out to everybody. By the time this episode is out, that some of that stuff may even be close to coming out or out. So definitely be sure to check it out. Where should people go to follow you and check out the patches that you have for sale for the Prophet?
Yeah, just my website, J3PO.net or JulianPollack.net or .com. It all goes to the same place.
Awesome.
And there's a store on there that has a bunch of preset packs. That's the other thing. Hopefully in the next year, going to be doing more and more preset packs. I've just been touring so much that it's just been like hard to get to making more presets. I had a goal for a while to do one pack a month, but they end up taking a long time to make because the creation of the pack, like 50 sounds, is actually quite manageable. But then filming the demo and putting the whole product together, and as you know, it's just like the second part of, or the back end of these types of things to complete them. It takes so much time.
It's a lot of dedication, for sure.
And that second part is never as fun as the first part.
It's true.
It's
not. Yeah, I mean, like just today we've got like multiple screen records, a bunch of different audio files, several cameras, like 4 different cameras. Like it's a lot of stuff for sure.
Right. We're having fun right now, but later it may not be so fun once, hundreds of gigabytes are landing in your computer.
in the hard drive. And even just the process of like, as soon as we shut this down, I'm going to like be doing one SD at a time. Like, okay.
Oh man.
Putting each thing in, like now I got to transfer the files. It takes me like another 2 hours just to like get everything on the computer, But
this is the thing. It's like the back end.
It's important stuff, man. It's important stuff. So, all right, speaking of which, this is an interesting transition. We can take a quick synth break. And I know that you were saying you're going to be releasing. Yeah, let's take these off. I know you're going to
I feel so much better now.
Oh, it's so freeing.
Yeah.
So you're going to be releasing this record really, really soon.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of curious, more just getting into kind of the business side of things. We were kind of chatting a little bit before we turned on all the cameras just about how things have kind of changed. And I'm kind of curious what you would be up for sharing with people about maybe how you're going to change your approach for this release, or any advice you have for people about how to, prepare a successful release of music in 2025 and beyond.
Well, I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about having a successful release in 2025 and beyond, but I can say...
Time will tell. By the time this podcast is out, we'll know.
But to me, in a way, I kind of come back to this thing that we as musicians are always, kind of having to grapple with it, and that is like, why are we doing this in the first place? The point is that we love music, and that when we have this feeling of like needing to put out our own music, like that has to happen no matter what. So I think that for everybody, obviously there's the financial side of putting out a record, which, if you hope for great success with that, if you're in a genre that's creative like jazz or jazz adjacent, obviously you need to lower your expectations just a little bit, because even the absolute greats are not, scooping it in. So I think just managing expectations with that. And then in terms of like, having good strategies so that the music actually gets heard, I think it's really challenging. And I think there's a balance between like being a perfectionist with what you're doing and wanting your album or whatever you're working on to be the absolute best it can be, and with also just moving on, like put it out, like know when to stop and move on, because at the end of the day, I think for all of us, this is more about the process than the product.
That's a really great point.
At least that's like where I'm at, and if you're an independent artist or even a semi-independent artist, if you can have some help from a team, that obviously helps. Like I'm putting out an album on a label, Rope-A-Dope, and they're being great with like just doing a lot of the stuff, like reaching out to different promotional aspects of getting the record out there, taking care of the vinyl creation. Like we just did this thing the other day on Instagram that was really, really great. Using a keyword in a post to give followers and fans an opportunity to hear the music in advance. When they told me about this, I was like, no, this is corny. I don't like to do stuff like that. And they're like, no, we just want you to try it. So we did it, and then so many people turned out were excited to hear the music early.
Yeah, I think I was one of them. I commented and then immediately got like a link.
Right, so that was set up by this, I think it's called Rivet or something like that.
Okay, yeah. I've heard of like ManyChat. I think maybe that's another one.
It's probably a similar thing. And I think they collect, did they ask you for an email address or something like that? Or
dude, you know what? I can't remember where I was, but I was not in a position to actually listen, so I didn't click it at that time, and I forgot, yeah.
But at the end of the day,
so sorry.
It's all transactional. I need your email address. I mean, I think as artists, it's like, yeah, we're having to interface with the business side of things, which I think when we're in this creative mindset, that sometimes can feel a little slimy, but it's just part of it. And I think that finding creativity within that side is also important. Like like this new concept, like that they told me that I was like, no, that's corny. It's not going to work. So yeah, I think having a team, or at least somebody like my wife, Emily, she does all of my graphic art. So for all the preset packs, all albums, all tour design stuff, she's doing that. And I know you have a team. I don't know how many people, it seems like you got a pretty good team.
Yeah, shout out to my team. They're amazing. I honestly love working with them. So.
Yeah, and I think that the sooner people can start collaborating with other people, like in that team kind of way, it's important. And I think that's the only for like, to grow success in whatever you're doing, the team doesn't need to be 100 people, but just having at least, one person or two or maybe 5 to kind of like work with you on stuff. And because we can't do it all.
It's impossible.
I think it's important for us to understand what goes into each element of this endeavor. And I think for people who are younger and starting out, it's good, like if you have your like little show in town at this spot, like make your flyer, see what that's like. Even if you're not a graphic artist, but just know like it's not just easy. Somebody has to know what they're doing. There has like all these little decisions. So I think, yeah, when people are starting out, it's you're not going to have a team. So take it as an opportunity to learn all these different processes. I still actually am mixing my own records, but that's because I really love to do it. And I think I stopped doing a lot of mixing for other people, but I love that process. But maybe in the future I'll start dishing that out too. I don't know. It's the original question was how to have a successful
I don't even
release.
Remember anymore.
A successful release for 2025 and beyond. Yeah. Well, as we were talking about, man, it's just like the traditional, or not the traditional, but like the methods of the past 10 years. Like I always think of like of 2017 as like the golden year for like social media, like especially like Instagram, because you could just put out anything, like just to throw up your camera, you're playing, or say, hey, I got this gig, or I have a new album, and people would see it.
They would see it, and they actually, I think, liked seeing it.
They liked seeing it.
I think they probably still do now too, if they see it.
Right. But the algorithm now is prioritizing lowest common denominator, random stuff, and trying to get you to see everything else. So I think that both of us, all of us in this kind of independent landscape have to grapple with how to deal with that. And like with the playlist stuff, as I said to you earlier, like I remember I put up my first release, this tune called The Crab, and it immediately got on a playlist, got like in that year like 2 million, 3 million streams, which I feel like for that genre of music is great. Amazing, and then now it seems like it's just like the kind of mechanics of how that all happens, like who are the people who are making these playlists, especially on platforms like Spotify. It's like people say there's no gatekeeping, but there's still gatekeeping.
That may just be the way things are in this kind of society.
Yeah.
For better and for worse.
Yeah, and I think we're probably going through another time of change right now in terms of just how technology is working. I feel like we had like many years, like remember when it was like easy to go viral on YouTube, like with a performance, like something where somebody's just singing a song viral. I feel like nowadays it's just like because of the saturation, it's
absolutely,
and just the way that these companies want it to work, we have to think differently. And our primary goal now, at least on the kind of digital online sense, is like, how do we connect with the people who want to hear from us or the people who want to hear from you? But I think that also then pairs very much with like keeping the live thing alive. I'm always shocked by how like whenever I'm on tour or like playing a show somewhere, like a couple nights ago, I played Baked Potato with Bob Reynolds.
Fun.
And it was packed. And it was just like so great to just like no phones, I'm not worried about that. Like, are we reaching people? It's like, yeah, that person is literally 5 feet in front of me and they really dug this. So I think like remembering, and I'm just speaking to like, as you're saying, like maybe some of the younger people out there who are trying to do this thing is like, yeah, remember that live performance is like in-person human connection is like the most important thing.
So special. And I really love, I've been watching a lot of Jack Conte's recent content about, he calls it the death of the follower. Right. But I think that the buzzword that I'm actually loving, that's as opposed to kind of like a more negative vibe, more of like the positive vibe, is just community.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like just, maybe our reach isn't what it once was. Maybe it's a fraction of what it once was, but the people that like really want to hear from us and like really care about what we're doing, fostering that community is just more important than ever. And I think that that's such a win-win for everybody. Yeah. Because, those people get to be part of like this community and we get to, potentially maybe foster kind of our own community, but then all of our communities are also make up a bigger community, I think which is really cool. Like the amount of students that I have that are also working with other people in our community. Yeah. Or just know all the same people, it's kind of a cool moment.
Hell yeah.
I also want to give a quick shout out here to the gorgeous Casio Grand Hybrid piano. This is a really interesting instrument, a very unique instrument, because it's a digital keyboard that I get to actually use for MIDI and production, but it literally has real physical hammers built in. So usually digital instruments are essentially creating keybeds to try and emulate a real hammer action keybed or piano, right? This one literally is a digital instrument with it actually built in. So I find it really, really cool. You open up the back here and you can actually see the hammers up in the corners. And what do those hammers do? Well, they make it feel amazing to play. So I love this. I will hook this keyboard up into MIDI. I'll use it to play through either Pianotech or Keyscape, one of the beautiful sounding piano sounds on my computer for production purposes. And yet I actually feel like I'm playing a real grand piano. This instrument also has 3 beautiful piano sounds that I wanted to show you really, really quick. So this is the Berlin Grand. Here's the Hamburg Grand. And finally, check out the Vienna Grand. I just wanted to make sure to shout out this instrument as well because I've been really enjoying using it. Again, if you want to learn more about this, check out the link in the description. That's an affiliate link for me, so it really helps me and Casio out. And one more big thank you to Casio for sponsoring these episodes. I enjoyed doing them so much, and it's great to work with a company that wants to support really quality education going out for free to all of you. All right, let's get right back into the episode. Anyway, man, so let's get super nerdy. Uh-oh. Because I feel like we haven't had a chance to just go down the like jazz rabbit hole yet.
Okay.
So
We've been jazz adjacent.
We've been jazz adjacent, which is a very wonderful thing to be. But let's get New York on it. Let's get right into it. So I'm kind of curious. Here's one of my favorite questions to ask people. We'll start easy. What are 1 to 3 of your favorite voicings, if you had to choose?
Voicings, my favorite voicings. I actually like that question because, you know, it's like so much of the time, like in education, we have to like always talk about the horizontal versus the vertical, because it's great harmony is a horizontal thing, not a vertical thing. But that's not to say that there aren't certain snapshots that we all can love. Honestly, man, for me, like, I just love this voicing. So just 2 stacked triads, C minor and B flat. I just love that because it just sounds so good everywhere. Love that one. So yeah, C minor, 11. So you said 3.
If you feel like it, yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think everyone loves this one. So F over A with the 9 in there. Also, these voicings are so good for like just parallel motion, or what did you call it again?
Intervallic motion.
Intervallic motion, exactly.
And what do you think of that voicing as? Because you said you use 9. So I call it sus2 over 3.
Sus2 over 3.
That's what I call it, you know.
So,
and then
sus2.
Sus2 over 3. Because I just think of it as like the way I'm naming it is you've got major triad, but then sus2, and you put it over the 3.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's the perfect theoretical name for it, I don't know, but that just for me conveys like the exact sound of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think since we have a hard time naming it, that's why it's so cool. And that's why it floats around like what you were just doing, you know. It just, I mean, you don't need to be in a key with that voicing. It's like, it's such a great pivot voicing. Yeah, I'll think about that though.
It's very neutral.
It's so neutral.
So I'm kind of curious, what are some ways you might use it?
Well, everything from just that parallel motion stuff. Just because it's so pretty. Trying to like think of like a context.
And that was beautiful, yeah.
Obviously that 3 in the bass, you know, that always, I think about it like that too. So like, that's definitely some sort of, if we're in the key of C, it's a 4 chord with that 3 in the bass. So, you know, I might do that.
It goes so nicely to the 4 after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great voicing.
That's a beauty.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Third one for a dominant chord. Just that flat 9 situation. I've been doing this exercise though. I've been into these like 2-handed things. Yeah, 2 notes in the left hand. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's that one.
Yeah, that's, you know, some pianist shit right there.
Yeah. Are there any other like kind of arpeggio patterns like that you mess with?
I mean, you know what's funny, man, is lately I've been kind of getting back into it. I think partly I recently got an iPad with the pencil. I've been addicted to it, man. I'm making all these lists and like I'll be sitting there and like just easily write stuff out. I think for a long time I was like, I used to keep some notebook, but now it's like, it's so great to have it on the iPad because you're going to use the iPad for a million things.
You'll never lose it.
Yeah, and you have it on the piano and it feels great. So I've been using GoodNotes and importing, you know, like, you know, just daily sheets for whatever, and kind of creating some of these exercises like that one we just played. And this other one I've been working on is this. Here it is. All right, so it's.
Cool. Yeah.
Tricky one, and I think it's tricky because of the fingering. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's like all the black notes, basically?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
And I think it's cool to practice little things like that, that have irregular groupings, so that when you're playing, it's like if you're just gonna drop that in there, at least it's gonna have something that's gonna kind of throw it off kilter and not just be something in 4/4.
Absolutely.
Or groupings of 4. But I think it's great to practice stuff like that, just because it's maybe not just regurgitating it into a solo. I don't know. I go through periods where I'm like, patterns suck, and then like patterns are great.
Well, I think part of what's really fun too is when you're soloing, breaking them.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any like exercises, or not just exercises, but even just concepts, musically speaking, at the piano or theoretically, that in your music education you just remember being like aha moments, or just like moments in a lesson with someone, or just anything that really you feel like that was a pivot point or really, really helped me out?
It was a lot of small nuggets of that. As a beginner, or like, beginner getting into the intermediate phase,
Sure, yeah.
singing what I was playing, or, attempting to sing what I was going to play, that was probably the biggest. And I remember do you know Bennett Pastor? Great pianist in New York.
No.
He was teaching at Stanford Jazz Camp. I think he still does. Really great keyboardist and pianist. I remember I was studying a class at Stanford Jazz, and that was like one of the things he was like, just over a blues, And I find that if I do that, and hopefully not in a Keith Jarrett manner, it sometimes will connect me to the instrument so much more. And I think as a youngster, it was like, it really made that kind of mind to instrument connection for me. Because it's like, if you're singing it, you have to kind of know what you're going to do. So you got to keep it simple. But the simple stuff, when done in a way that is meaningful, then codifies the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, that was like a big aha moment. And I think a lot of the other kind of like more aha moments came, from transcribing. I remember I transcribed Time for Love.
Yeah, Bill Evans. A little diminished chord there.
I'm not playing it right, but it's pretty close. Tense, I love that record alone, Bill Evans. I feel like that for me is like solo piano wise.
It's definitely one of the greatest solo piano records of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you stride people forget about that record, okay? I know the stride stuff's cool, but check out Alone, okay? Don't forget.
That album is, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I remember, I think I transcribed On a Clear Day. That's from that record.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it was. That one is like, I transcribed that in like high school. So it's like, I don't think I've actually played it in like 8
it's in
years.
there.
It's in there somewhere, but.
And,
I think it's like with Bill Evans, he really took the time to figure out the perfect voice leading. Like you hear the melodies within the melodies.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous, just gorgeous.
And casually reharm master.
Absolutely. It's like weird because you almost don't even hear it.
Right.
It's so smooth.
Right. It's like you don't think of like, oh, he's reharming.
Right.
But he is. But it's just so freaking musical that it's just like.
Yeah, how do you think of reharming, since you're actually working on a course as well?
Yeah, well, it's, we're in this era now, like since like, I don't know, Dirty Loops, they really kind of put like reharm as a thing with the jazz adjacent genre. I don't know, do you remember when they came out with that Justin Bieber Baby reharm?
I mean, I remember them conceptually, but I don't remember like a specific song.
Philippe Lem?
I don't.
Drummer?
Oh, Philly Blem. Yeah.
I'll never forget. We were doing a session at Manhattan School of Music, just messing around, just playing tunes, and he's like, "Dude, you gotta check this out." And I just remember being there, and he pulled the laptop, and it was just like, "What is this?"
You know, he showed me Anomaly for the first time
okay.
10 years ago or something.
He's always on the up and up. Right. So it's like almost like this harmony thing. Reharm has become like this, like more than a concept. It's like a genre.
Like a style.
It's like a style.
Totally.
You know, I always think of reharm as just the reharming the melody. But I guess you could the
progression, I suppose, is really like more substitution, right? Like if it's just a progression, that's really kind of substitution. Exactly.
Like tritone substitution. Yeah, I think when I think about reharm, it's mostly like, like in its quintessential form is like, a melody is a melody. You can do anything underneath it. How much can you respect the original key center so that it still has a semblance of tonality, but how far can you stretch it? I think that's these days, and since Dirty Loops, Anomaly, and Robert Glasper, Snarky Puppy, all the jazz adjacent stuff, it's like there's definitely a sound to it, and it's heavily coming out of the Black church. Like, let's be real. And so, and I think that like gospel music and these, cats like Quentin Gaskin and stuff, it's like they're the utmost masters of keeping the harmony, I don't want to say palatable, but respecting the tonality, whilst taking you on a journey that is super wild and beautiful. So like when I think about reharm, that's kind of what I'm after, and I think a lot of people in this kind of, as we're saying, this reharm style versus like a Bill Evans thing where it's like a little more under the hood. Is that stretching it as far as it can go while maintaining that semblance of the original tonality.
So are there any like guidelines that you follow when it comes to reharmonization? Is it more like trusting your instincts, or are there kind of any musical theories that you use to determine like this chord is going to sound good going into this next chord or something like that?
Well, first of all, I just finished filming a course. J3PO teaches reharmonization. Hopefully, I don't know if it's going to be out when this comes out, but I'm hoping it'll be out this mid-year or something like that. But the course definitely goes through this whole process of like, at least my kind of take on it. And it all kind of revolves around, one of the core techniques that I use is the one-note reharm, where you've probably done this a lot, where it's like you just take two notes, and then you, Just make sure you can reharm that with smooth voice slitting with every chromatic note in the chromatic scale. And that shows you how to harmonize one note with all the possibilities. So by being able to stretch it as far as possible, but then always remembering that the original harmony was probably better than anything you come up with. So always circling back and tagging that bass. That's kind of I guess like when I do reharms, it's my concept.
That's such a great lesson to remember. I've never put it that way vocally, just remember that the original is probably better than anything you can come up with. That's great, man. Well, hopefully by the time this episode airs, your reharm course will either be available or close to being available. Yeah. So I think there's a good chance that will be the case. I hope
so, man.
And either way, everybody, make sure that you follow Julian across social media, J3PO, your website. I'm sure you'll have your courses up there too.
Once I talk to Noah on the
we'll talk some shop. Man, so before we wrap, how would you feel about maybe playing something together?
Sure.
Cool.
Play a little Sandu?
Yeah, okay, let's do it. Yeah, you got the melody though?
Sure.
All right, perfect.
1, 2.
Yeah.
Good.
Woo!
Nice,
Dude,
man.
thank you so much. That
Oh
was
man, thanks for having me, dude.
So fun. Huge thanks to Julian. Anybody watching or listening, make sure to check out Julian's work, J3PO, on all streaming. He's also released some stuff under Julian Pollack. I was trying to find this piano concerto of his. I don't know if that's available or not.
Unfortunately,
Tried
not.
really hard. But also he's going to have courses coming out very, very soon, if not out already by the time we're recording this. I am so excited to check those out myself. And yeah, man, thank you so much again for being here.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
All right, until the next one. Thanks, everybody.